This is Johnny. It's Wednesday morning, 6:30 a.m. here, wherever you're tuning in. I say welcome. To get this live stream started, I'm going to cover what the major talking points will be. And like always on my daily live streams, we stick to the plan as long as we can. We take your questions. And as this goes on and on, feel free to ask whatever you like. But to get started, I am going to cover what you see in the title on the thumbnail, the two-leg parlay going into Thursday's fight in Tokyo, Japan. I covered the main event already with Jin Sasaki taking on Brian Norman Jr. And then the co-main Christian Araneta is fighting. So a fighter from Thailand is fighting a fighter from the Philippines. And I posted that two-leg parlay in our post section yesterday. And the odds I got yesterday, 378. And I told you guys the live stream yesterday and the day before, if you like Araneta, take him now because those odds were going to shift, and that's exactly what happened. If you pull out your books, if you could even bet on the Araneta fight, yesterday we saw him as a sizable underdog, and now on some books it's an even, and in some books he's the favorite. So I feel really comfortable taking him. I'm not getting the option to take Araneta by stoppage, but I have him on the money line, and I have Norman Jr. by stoppage. On my book, if you would have taken that yesterday, like I said, I already posted it, you would have got 378. Those odds have dropped to $3.50. So depending where you're sitting at, if you want to bite on that bet, take it right now because I think the odds are going to decrease on both sides, considering that's generally what happens the closer we get to fight night. Also, I did upload my breakdown of Yafi, his fight going into, he's the main event in Birmingham, England. He's fighting a very tough Francisco Rodriguez Jr. opponent, so we're going to talk about that fight as well. If you haven't seen the Norman Jr. breakdown or the Yafi breakdown, it's on my channel, both of them individually. Go to the playlist section, find fight predictions, and you'll be able to see my analysis breakdown on both fights. So everyone's checking in. What's up, guys? We're getting close to fight night. I appreciate all the support. Wherever you are, check it in, guys. Let's like this video. Let's get those likes up. We're doing great on the growth, and it's all because of you guys tuning in, asking questions, and liking this video. So to get started, the first question I just saw regarding the two fights I brought up already was from Swindle, and I'll answer that right now. He asks, do I think the Yafi fight goes the distance? Now, in my breakdown, I talked about both guys' careers. They're both 32 years old, but you couldn't find two different career trajectories with guys who are the same age. We know that Galal is a gold medalist, an Olympic gold medalist. This is only going to be his 10th fight. He's also a southpaw. Just want to throw that out there. This fight is taking place at 112 pounds. In his opponent, he's 32. He has about, I think this might be his 46th pro fight. So when we talk about tread on the tires, this is what I mean. Now, his opponent, give me 1 second, guys. Some technical difficulties real quick. Give me 1 second. All right, everything's caught up. Francisco Rodriguez Jr. has a handful of losses. We know Yafi's undefeated. It's going to be a tough fight for Yafi. Rodriguez Jr.'s losses, he fought Junto Nakatani. Nakatani couldn't knock him out. Ioka lost to him as well. Couldn't knock him out. His only loss by stoppage, you have to go back to 2013. It was either 2012, 2013, where he got stopped by Chocolatito. And we know the legend in Chocolatito, so there's no shame in that. So do I see a stoppage? I don't know. What I'm doing right now on my prediction video, I'm picking Yafi to win. That fight isn't taking place until Sunday. So as we start building our parlays, I'll answer that fully, Swindle. Can I see Yafi stopping him? Everything we've seen with Yafi has been amazing. His speed, his reflexes, sitting down on shots. So the safe bet, I'm going to play the safe bet right now for you, Swindle. I'm just picking Yafi to win. And the money line odds, if you want to build a parlay around Yafi, right now it's at $1.34. And guys, I have to remind everybody, some of you guys are unaware, down here in Australia, the betting app I use forces a three-way odds play, meaning that you on the money line, I either have to pick fighter A, fighter B, or the draw. So the downside of that is if a fight that I pick on the money line ends in a draw, I lose my parlay. But the upside, whatever odds you get, they seem to be a little bit better. You guys, I think, have two-way betting, so the draw is removed. And if you guys bet a draw, you guys bet a winner and a draw happens on your parlay, the fight just goes void. So that's why our odds are a bit, up and down sometimes. Just want to clarify that. Somebody asked about stoppages. Brian Norman Jr. versus Jin Sasaki. Do I see a stoppage happening early or later? That's an interesting question, guys. That's an interesting question regarding where you see this fight stopping. Now, I'm taking Norman Jr. to win by stoppage. I got him yesterday at $1.89. He's down on my books to win by stoppage to $1.80. When you look at both guys' styles, and this is something the more tape you watch, I could see an early stoppage. And it really has nothing to do with what Norman's game plan is going to be. The only reason I say I could see an earlier stoppage rounds 1 through 6 is because the way Sasaki fights. Do you know what I'm saying? So that doesn't necessarily mean that I think Norman's going to, put the foot on the pedal and go for an early stoppage. But Sasaki is going to go to the middle of the ring and want to brawl him. And because of that, I feel that his over-aggression will be his downfall. Will that happen early? Will that happen late? Also, guys, if you like Norman Jr., he's going to get tested in this fight. There will be some questions answered regarding some of the naysayers talk about his chin, talk about his durability. I watched an interview with Boca Chica, and I was in the comments section. Boca Chica was giving an interview on YSN, and we know that Boca Chica fought Norman Jr., but the fight was declared a technical because of head clashes. It ended because of head clashes. And that was, I think a 21-year-old Brian Norman Jr., and Boca Chica was talking about how he's not a puncher. And I was just thinking to myself, boxers trying to sell fights. Look at Norman Jr., 78% career knockout to win ratio. He's a puncher. Mo Price and Boz, welcome to the live stream. Boz, could you do me a favor and re-ask the question so we could stay on track? I like all of these. Goat's saying he likes the early knockout if he had to choose 1 to 6. And I could see that depending on what odds you're getting if you want to just go heavy. Yeah. And like I said, if that stoppage comes, I think it's Sasaki pretty much, I don't want to say asking for it, but his aggression, he's coming in there really confident. We talk about it all the time, the Japanese spirit, how they fight. They're fun to watch. Decision 350 for Araneta. I have on my parlay the 2-leg. It's in the post section. I got Araneta on the money line as an underdog. Sasaki's tough. Norman, to be careful. Exactly. So I feel that some of those questions, how confident are you on the Araneta knockout? Boz, I'm not taking Araneta by knockout. I got him 2 days ago on my app as the underdog. And I knew those odds were going to switch. I did a live stream based around those odds switching. And sure enough, call me Nostradamus. That's exactly what happened. The odds switched. And I think a lot of times those initial odds are due to that kind of awkward BoxRec algorithm. Because if you look at Araneta's opponent, he has, I think, 34 knockouts. But when you look at who he's fighting in Thailand, and then you look at, and neither guy is world class. And guys, I'm going to make a declaration right now. Based off of what happened to my parlay, the first parlay in Africa with Alate and Gorsh, I told myself I was done betting on domestic level fighters, guys that don't have a trajectory towards a world-class level. If I miss on this Araneta fight, I'm not doing any more domestic level fights. Just letting you know. And I want you guys to hold me to that. Because sometimes with these domestic level fights, because the lack of class, more importantly, the lack of world level experience and ring IQ, sometimes it's a toss-up. But with those odds, like I said, I already wagered on it. You can see. I'm rolling with Araneta to win the fight, depending on what you like. Both guys on paper are knockout artists. So, no, I'm sure, PJ. I'm just letting you know because I don't want to be a guy who says that I'm not betting on domestic level fights. Then you guys see me the very next week being hypocritical. I'm holding myself accountable. Accountability is pretty big in my life, how I live my life. So that's why I said that. Mac had the Gorge Alate. Yeah, Barrel, I just didn't see it. I did the film study on Gorsh Alate, and you're looking at the weight classes. Alate fought. I felt like that was the best version I've ever seen Alate fight. I've only watched 2 of his fights, but he was classier, he was smoother, he was slicker, he was the better boxer, and Gorsh was really one-dimensional. So yeah, I definitely missed on that one. PJ's following the bet. Swindle McGrill fight to go the distance. So Peter McGrill versus Baluta. Guys, let's focus on. I'm gonna answer Swindle's question again, and then I'll get to some of your other ones. Peter McGrill was supposed to be the main event in Birmingham. We know that the opponent fell through, and so now that's the co-main, and now the main event is Yulal Gafai versus Francisco Rodriguez Jr. I only reference that as sometimes when there's a late place replacement opponent that could either work in the favor or work against the main guy. So Pete McGrill, money line, $1.16. I try to stay. I don't even know if I'm going to roll the dice and bet on that fight. I'll let you know. We're going to start building that long parlay. Guys, sorry for the late. I'm going to wait until after Tokyo to put together our long parlay because I have to stay focused. Maybe it's a bit superstitious for me. I'm covering and documenting the film study of these fights, but I'm focusing on Japan first, the DAZN card. You get it in your book. Goat, I woke up this morning with a bunch of new fights in my book. So let's see. Give me a second. So who's headlining on the DAZN card? Is it the Rubikava card or Kona Walker? Because I woke up with a bunch of new fights. So before we continue, let me read you guys the fights that the book is offering me. I'll start in Tokyo, okay, guys? The only 2 fights that I'm allowed to bet on is the Christian Araneta versus Simsri fight, the co-main in Tokyo, the Brian Norman Jr. versus Sasaki, the main. And then Saturday, they're offering me Rubikava versus Mendez, Ruiz versus Tennant, Stevens versus Kamukov. Those are the fights, so I assume that's the DAZN card. And then on Sunday, there's a slew of fights. Udin versus Vallejo, Bowen versus Godoy, Suleiman versus Phillips, Visoli versus Duquette, Silva versus Romero, Brown versus Duca. There's a lot of them, guys. And the last fight of the weekend is the Callum Walsh versus Elias Espadas, Vito Melnicki. I don't know, guys. I don't even think I'm going to bet on the Vito Melnicki fight. And then another fight. So I'm uploading the Jahai Tucker versus Lorenzo Simpson fight. I feel in terms of storylines, even though it's not for a world title, even though these guys both have a couple losses, you have Jahai Tucker, who's only, I think, 21 or 22. He turned pro as a teenager. He lost to Nick Flaz. He's had some tough road so far for a young kid, has a loss. And I'm seeing people in the comment section, by no means is this a must-win for him. He still figured things out. He's still young. And then Lorenzo Simpson, we know they've been back and forth on social media talking about because they had sparred together, and then there were rumors of one ducking the other, and then one dog walked the other in sparring. Whatever that may be, that fight is going down, and Jahai Tucker is close to a 2-1 favorite. I'm breaking that film down as we speak, and I'll be uploading it today. There is a lot of money, guys, and what some perimeters I'm making in my own ethics of gambling, and you guys maybe could adhere to this if you like. You don't have to listen to anything I say. But I've noticed over the last month, I'm up. When I do win, the bets I do win on, I'm more patient with them, and I go heavier on a knockdown prop. I'll use the Josh Kelly knockout. I put a lot more money on that when only one thing has to happen, rather than when you see my 9, 10 leg parlays. So I want to clarify that. The 9, 10, 15 leg parlays, those are more I sprinkle some money on that. Let's see what happens. But, we lost one of them last week, but we won one of them. So I lost the 9 leg in Ghana, but we won the one to end the weekend on. And I posted those as well. My point is, sometimes with all the fights, we could get a little big-eyed and greedy, and we add $1.07. The last thing you want to do is have a 6 leg parlay going and you picked a couple underdogs, you picked a couple $1.50s, and then $1.06 ruins your parlay. So that's all I'm saying. Brandon, welcome to the show. He said he's following my lead on the Brian Norman Jr. stoppage. I feel that this matchup with Sasaki is tailor-made for a stoppage. I'm comfortable on that, and that's a hill I'll die on. When I saw the money, I'm like, I'm doing, like, this is a guy, Brian Norman Jr., 24 years old, man. By no means is he a finished product. He's just getting more confident as we speak, and I think it's a great fight for him. I think it's a great fight for him to go to Japan and showcase the best version of him, and I think we're going to see that. And guys, if you watch the fight week of Derek Cuevas, I know Derek Cuevas isn't a household name, but within the boxing circles, within the fighters' communities, they know about Derek Cuevas. There were people picking Cuevas to beat Norman Jr. I don't know if a lot of that has to do with just, dare I say, jealousy, or sometimes when there's hype on a young guy and he's getting promoted or marketed in a certain way, that rubs people the wrong way, and then that forces sort of money to come back against him. And before the Cuevas fight, Cuevas had never been stopped. Some people were even saying he was going to stop Norman Jr., and Norman Jr. stopped him. First guy to stop him. I only used that. And then the fight before that, the Gio Santillan fight. Same thing. Watch YouTube. The best thing about YouTube boxing is that there's receipts, unless guys are deleting their predictions or videos. But you could go back, find the date when Norman fought Gio, and watch the fight week, and watch all the people who were saying Gio was going to win, and watch what happened. So what I'm saying is, Norman Jr., we've seen Norman Jr. step up. Nice. We've seen Norman Jr. step up to the plate before. We've seen him answer the call, and I think that Sasaki is tailor-made for an exciting Norman Jr. performance. And Norman Jr. was coming off, I think, a surgery before he fought Cuevas. I think he had minor hand surgery after the Gio Santillan fight. I think he might have had surgery in October, and then he fought Cuevas somewhere in January, February, or March. And he said that his punch power was even better after surgery. So until I see something different from Brian Norman Jr., I'm going to continue betting on him, and I'm going to continue to bet on him by stoppage. I've won the last 2 times he's fought by stoppage. Now, I don't get as fancy as some of you guys. I try not to be greedy picking the range of rounds. I know some of you guys hit on that. Right now, I'm very content with either picking the method of victory, either being a decision or a stoppage. Will it be a TKO or knockout for Norman? So, PJ, good question. I'm learning that on your betting apps, you guys have different apps. You guys have different options for a TKO versus a KO. The reason why I'm not too confident in giving you advice on that, because I don't have that option to bet on. All of the stoppage outcomes are under 1%. So it's not something that I actually think about. Like, will this fight end in the corner? Will the corner throw a towel in? Will it end by sort of, a standing 8? Or will he get stopped? All of that is comprised on the betting side that I bet with under 1 number. Knockout 7-12 is a really good tank fight. Based on statistics. Exactly. So when you have a career that's long and you see the trajectory and habits and patterns of a fighter, what GOAT just said there, I'm sure, GOAT, you've won money on Tank in the past by stoppage late round. Tank's not a volume puncher. He's some rounds 1 through 2, he won't even throw punches, so I could see that. He's a slow operator. But I don't know if you picked Roach against Tank. I don't know if anybody picked the draw. I wonder if I wish that my betting app had an option to go back in time and see the odds, what they were, because if somebody picked that draw, that would have been amazing. Sasaki's been knocked out before, so I got Norman in 6. And Sasaki got knocked out by a 140-pounder, guys. Granted, he got knocked out by a really tough opponent, but he was still fighting at 140, a smaller guy who is world ranked. So it's something you got to look at. You definitely can't. And this is what I was in the comment section. I was in one of these boxing. The more I do these live streams, the more you guys have me in other boxing content's comment sections, because I never used to do that. But people are leaning on Sasaki to knock Norman Jr. out because they saw Norman Jr. wobbled against Cuevas, and then he got dropped. I'm pretty sure he did. That was their argument. But I said, if that's your argument, and that's why you think Sasaki's going to knock him out, you can't say that without saying Sasaki got stopped against Andy Hiroka at 140 pounds. And if you are saying that, then your argument is invalid because Norman Jr. is undefeated and he's never been stopped, and Sasaki has a loss and has been stopped in a lower weight class. So then the argument is flawed. But it's weird how some people will pile on with and spin a narrative to fit whatever they're going to roll with. Same with mine. It's all bundled as one. Yeah, any possible stops. Exactly. I'd like to know what you guys are getting on your knockdown props as well. If you guys, because my app is showing me a +1 and a +1.5. And I'm also thinking more on hedging the knockdown, the stoppage parlay. I'm thinking about hedging the stoppage parlay and taking a knockdown prop to where then I could watch the fight through a different lens as well. Let's say, anything can happen in boxing. So if you take the knockdown prop, I don't know if your book is offering it, but under my knockout markets, over 1.5 knockdowns is 225. So the reason why that's interesting, we know that Sasaki's tough, right? We already know Sasaki's tough. We know he's been dropped. We know he's been stopped. We know Brian Norman Jr. is tough, and we know how both of those men fight. So if you're kind of torn on who to go for, and let's say because right now the money line on Norman Jr. to win by stoppage is $1.80. If you're not confident on Norman Jr. to win by stoppage at $1.80, or the odds aren't good enough for you, check your knockdown markets because you could get 225 if there's 2 knockdowns. I mean, I think that's an equal risk. I could see there being 2 knockdowns, and I could see an early knockdown and a late knockdown. So that's something to think about. If you want to, I think I might hedge, like I said, I'll hedge what I already posted. And we got one more night until that fight, and I'll post that hedge bet as well because I found more success the last 2 weeks doing this sort of thing. Even though it's worked in my favor both times, when I picked Cruz and Hitchens to win by stoppage, on the other side, I also picked a knockdown market and won on that as well. So it's just something to think about. Norman getting the stoppage for sure. Swindle, 100%. Guys, one thing, we're 22 minutes into this. We're floating between about 50 and 70 in and out watching. Could you guys just like this video? That's all I ask from you, and we'll keep this going. I'm going to stay on for about an hour today, and then I have to deadlift. I got to hit the trap bar for my own strength programming. This is week 3 of a new 6-week block for me. So I have powerlifting in about an hour and a half. I'll also be uploading my Lorenzo Simpson versus Jahai Tucker breakdown analysis video, and then I'm going live again today because these odds are crazy, and we want to make sure that we're staying locked in. So I'm seeing, are you guys paying attention to, what other fights are you paying attention to? Because based off you guys in the comments, I know a small market is paying attention to what's happening in the UK. The Galalia 5 fight. It's going to be a tough fight. I featured that. And then the top rank card with Jahai Tucker and Lorenzo Simpson. I think we're going to be able to bet on that entire card. I think, guys, if we're going to make a lot of money again this week. And it just depends on how greedy you want to get. If you want to go heavy on like a 3 or 4 to 1, or even go heavy on a 2 to 1, that's what I'm doing. So to answer Pudgeon's question, is Simpson versus Tucker this weekend? It is. ESPN Plus top rank card. And currently the odds have Jahai Tucker as almost a 2 to 1 favorite. But we know the vitriol on this fight. We know that we've seen both guys lose, but both guys lost some decisions. I think that Jahai Tucker fought, wasn't Jahai Tucker's loss in overtime? Didn't he have to fight an extra round? No, he lost to Nick Flaz, who is a fun fighter. It was Lorenzo Simpson. He lost a UD and then a split, I'm pretty sure. And one of his split decision losses, he had to fight an overtime round, which I don't know how I feel about that. Boca Chica drop BNJ, Jin Power. Simstri and Arenado go the distance. Dog. So to answer, I got a couple I have to answer. I'm going to answer the Arenado fight versus Simstri will go the distance. Based off of their knockout to win ratios, they're both, this is why they got promoted to co-main. I think there's going to be a stoppage. The bet I took and I already put in, though, I told you guys yesterday and the day before that the odds makers had it wrong. So I got Arenado as the underdog. So I'm already, my hands are clean on that fight. I'm rolling with it. I have Arenado on the money line underdog, and I have Norman Jr. to win by stoppage, and I went real heavy on that. So we'll see. So my plan is, if all things work out, that hits, and then I'll take that and then go heavy on maybe a 2-1, if I could find a 2-1 going into the weekend, which I already have my eyes on something. But I could see, if you guys want to do a fun stoppage parlay, you could go stoppage on Arenado Simsri and don't have to pick a winner, or will the fight go the distance? No. Will the fight go the distance? BNJ versus Jin? No, and see what that gives you. Meech, yeah, I know. So Pudgeon's Hade. I because of you guys, I'll answer Hade's question again. Because of you guys, I'm not going to lie, I have had one eye on the UFC this week, because last week I gave you guys, it was in the moment just like this. You guys asked me about it, and I hit 5 out of 6. So I was like, all right, if I get asked about the UFC again, I want to be a little bit more deliberate with my intention. So I do have my eyes on the UFC. Give me until Friday. So let's get through Japan first. I got to stay focused. I'm streamlined on Japan, which happens tomorrow. And then we'll see how we go. And then after tomorrow, that next live stream, which will be my Friday morning, your Thursday night, we'll talk about the UFC. I'm taking the under. Julius, what's the under paying you on your book? I think that's a great bet, guys. Round betting markets. Alternate rounds, alternate total rounds. Wow. The odds aren't that good, though. Even the over at 11.5 is only 2-1. El Gallo, checking in. I salute you. He likes Tucker, and he likes the fight not to go the distance. I feel you on that. Mo Price, they're talking about the under on Norman Jr. versus Sasaki, but yeah, you could go under 7.5. You could go. All right, let's do this real quick. I'll tell you the odds I'm getting on the over-unders for the Sasaki versus Norman Jr. fight. So the way I have it here, over 1.5, $1. Over 2.5, $1.02. It's about $1.02 to $1.05 up until about the 7th round. So if you like good odds, if it's going to go over 7.5, you're only getting $1.40. Now let's look at the under. Under 4.5 is 6-1, guys. So I mean, that might be something worth sprinkling something on if you love Sasaki's aggression to work against him. Because we know that Norman Jr. carries power all throughout the fight. We've seen early stoppages, we've seen late stoppages, and we've seen it recently. So under 4.5 is $6 on my book. Yeah, so Meech, it's Thursday morning in America. It'll be my Thursday night at 9 p.m. Under 7.5 is $2.50. These are interesting odds. It's just then, you know, if I were to be a riverboat gambler, of all the under odds I'm looking at, and this is just based on value and risk, I like, this isn't my prediction, but I like, if you want to just roll the dice, I like under 4.5 at 6-1. That's what I'm getting. I think you could sprinkle something on. I mean, $50 under 4.5 gets you your money back plus $250. I mean, if all goes well and ends well, I could see that getting stopped in 4.5. And I know that Sasaki's tough, and I'm not predicting that. But guys, I think the purpose of these live streams, for myself included, are to open our eyes in different areas of how to bet and where money is at. And over the last month, that's something I've been winning on, are those stoppage prop bets, which I never used to bet on. The first time I ever bet for a fighter to win by stoppage was the Josh Kelly fight. That was only 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago against Flavius Bea, and then I hit that, and it was partially due to hearing Muscles on Gary's live stream, and that's how he rolls. And he brought it up on my live stream once. Fast Car, Hitman Hearns in the house. Roundtree, tough fight. He's fighting Jamal Hill. Tough fight from Roundtree. Fun style though, man. Fun style. That's gonna be a fun fight. Yeah, I'm not skeptical about it. I'm not like, it's something, the more you watch my breakdown videos, you'll hear me say every other video is, what have you done for me lately? So when I see a young guy coming up through the ranks doing like sort of like pecking order fights, it's like, where do I sit in the kingdom of alphas? You're going to get tested. If anything, I'm glad I saw him get knocked down because you know he could get back up. And granted, the fight didn't end, the fight ended due to headbutts, but we saw him come back. We saw him stop Gio Santillan, and then we saw him stop Derek Cuevas, who had never been stopped. And he's still only 24. So a lot of that has to do with making slight adjustments with his defense, which he did. Guys, go to my playlist section, click on fight prediction, and go down and find the Brian Norman Jr. versus Derek Cuevas fight prediction. Then look in the comment section. You'll see Brian Norman Jr.'s dad call me out in the comment section, all because this is before the Cuevas fight. I said I'm high on Brian Norman Jr., but the thing I'm skeptical about is his sort of defensive approach in the pocket. I was like, what I'd like to see from Norman Jr. going into the Cuevas fight is for him to make some adjustments, just be a little bit more defensively sound. And his dad didn't like that. But we saw him make adjustments. He did get caught at the end of that, I think, round 2 against Cuevas. Didn't fall, got caught slightly. He denied it in the post-fight meeting, but he stopped Cuevas. My point is, I focus on what a fighter has done in our rear view mirror right there versus 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Because that getting dropped 2 years ago helped make who he is now. And Brian Norman Jr. now, guys, is a world champion. And Boca Chica is a guy coming off a loss against Tiger who hasn't won a fight in 5 years. Boca Chica hasn't won a fight since 2021. Mo Price, that under 4.5 is tempting. I think I'm going to do it. And it's not, and I'm going to do it because, look, when I give you those breakdown videos, the stats don't lie, hold me on those. Those are like my film study, my reasoning, my knowledge of the sport. Hold me on those, and you guys do hold me on those. And my percentage on those are pretty high. But now I'm starting to flirt with these over-unders, that's just us having fun. We got to have fun too. So I think I'm going to sprinkle, so that under 4.5 is tempting. And the funny thing is, I would take the under 4.5, like I said, not because of anything that Brian Norman Jr. does well, but solely because how Jin Sasaki fights. And we know that when that fight is brought to Norman Jr., he's not gonna backpedal. So it's an interesting dynamic, interesting narrative. Halfway through this live stream, like this video, guys. Let's keep the questions coming. So far, we're staying focused on that Japanese fight card. And we could open it up. Like if you're just tuning in now, a bet that we just discovered is the Sasaki Norman Jr. under 4.5, 6-1. Under 3.5. This is where it gets kind of dicey. Under 3.5, 9-1. Yeah, this could get a little reckless. Guys, I definitely recommend having boundaries in terms of, you know, one boundary I have is that if I have a ticket, like we'll use Ghana, for example. When I lost the Brandon Gorsh fight, it was the one loss I had, there were still options for me to bet on that day. Kind of like, oh, I lost, let me chase it. I never do that. So if you have the opportunity, if you're in a position to where you see your parlays dusted, I would just sit with the loss and wait till tomorrow and start over clean and create a new parlay with the mindset of starting over clean and turning the page rather than getting it back. Because we know every time we try to get it back, you might get it back once or twice, but a lot of times when we try to chase that tail, you end up in a deeper hole. So find your own systems, find your own methodologies. That's one of mine, and that's why I shut the live stream off. The Ghana live stream was miserable, guys. And some of you guys were on the live stream with me. the YouTube, DAZN just basically was like, we're not even doing this. Amir Khan was getting torched on Twitter, and I just it had a bad taste written all over it. I should have known. And that's when I was like, no more domestic level fighters. And that's why if Araneta doesn't come through, for me, no more domestic level fighters. So Chris Jr., I only have 10.5 under 110. Okay, so maybe you're going to have to wait. Yeah, so I have that too. But like my betting app in Australia, it gives me options every round. Under 11.5, under 10.5, under 9.5. Yeah, GOAT, 100. Amir Khan, that's on site. What do the Young Bucks say? If I see Amir Khan, it's on site. All right, let's think about. Are you guys getting a method of victory? All right, mode price. The way I've always been taught. So 4-1. 4-1 means, and I'm gonna make these numbers up, just for the sake of it. What I mean by 4-1, if I have a fighter who's the favorite at $1.19, this is how my betting app looks. Brian Norman Jr. says 119, right? Meaning that if you put $100 on Brian Norman Jr., you get 100 back, your original bet, plus 19. 4-1 is Jin Sasaki is $5.30. Meaning on the money line, if you take Jin Sasaki and you bet 100 on him, you get your 100 back plus 400. So 400 to 1. You get 400 plus the 100 you bet. So in total, if you had 0 in your account, you bet 100 on Sasaki at 530, you will get $530 deducted into your account. You have to take into consideration the $100 that you put up and then the 430 coming back to you. So that's what I mean. And that's the way my brain works when I look at it. Now the draw right now is $16, meaning that would be 15-1. Because $100 on the draw, you would put your $100 up and then you would get 1,600 back. But you have to remember, you have to deduct the $100 from the 1,600. So essentially you gained 1,500, 15-1. It's just the way my brain works, and it's the way the numbers work. But I know you guys on your odds at the casinos or your betting apps, they look differently. Because I've seen Gary, he's like plus 2,000. I'm like, what is that? Like plus 3,600, plus 1,600. That's not what our betting apps even look like, and that's not what the odds look like. And maybe I don't have a reason. I don't know why, but yeah, hopefully I answered your question. It didn't confuse you even more. Guys, we're about 38 minutes in. I wanted to ask you, are any of you boys getting method of victory options on the Araneta fight? Because I know some of you guys were asking, do I see a stoppage? And I told you guys, I'm rolling with the moneyline dog, Araneta, but I made that bet 3 days ago, and now Araneta is the favorite. But now that all these stoppage chat, both guys are knockout artists, I think that fight does end in a stoppage, but I'm not getting an option to bet on it. I'm just interested in what you guys are getting. Okay. Yeah, it's just a money line. I put 150 on Norman Jr. Oh, okay, so for example, for me, B&J's 525 favorite on the money line. Araneta knockout is 150. Here are all the questions, not on DraftKings or FanDuel. It's not on DraftKings. I really hope they put out. Yeah, I would do your best to jump on that, Mac. 180 not to go the distance. Swindle. I like that. I like that. Swindle. Both guys are domestic level guys. They're fighting in Japan, which we know that crowd and that energy of that place, and the matchup was made for a reason. If I had an option to take, will the fight go the distance 180? No, I would take it. All right, so David Moreau is fighting Aman Katayev. Great question. David Moreau is fighting Aman Katayev. We covered Aman Katayev on this channel. That fight's not for a few weeks. It's a tough fight for Moreau. We last saw him against Benavidez. He's just going to have to navigate some dangerous waters in the first maybe 1 through 4 rounds. Katayev is not too technically sound, but he has power. He's very muscled up, and he sort of runs out of gas. He's undefeated, so he doesn't know how to lose. So the closer we get to that fight, I am going to break that down, but great question. Araneta just came in for you. Rando Light. Come on, Rando Light. You got to get on it. And like I said, burn me at the stake if Araneta doesn't come through. And I'll also tell you, I'm done with domestic fights, but I got an eye for this, mate. And I saw it 3 days ago, and I was like, Vegas has this wrong. Araneta, $2 dog, and now he's the favorite. July 9th is going to be a big earnings week. I got my eye on Figueroa versus Gonzalez. Guys, I cannot bet. I am not ever, ever, ever betting on a Brandon Figueroa fight ever again. I know his brother retired. Either Figueroa brother. God, I don't even want to talk about a guy who just didn't show up. And then, do you remember Omar? You guys just triggered me. Omar Figueroa, and I could do my research and find out who he was fighting, but this was a fight that happened, I think it was in Los Angeles. This would have been like 5 years ago. And Omar Figueroa was the favorite. And he's fighting a guy he was like a 4-1 underdog. And Figueroa changed his whole style. And Omar was fighting like this. And he was coming like this and getting tagged every time. He was a 4. I was like, what is he doing? Who did he train? It was almost like he changed his whole style. Looked horrible and got pieced up and stopped against I forget who he fought. The guy ended up having some big wins, but I think he has like 7 or 8 losses. I don't even think he's active. Was that Abel Ramos? It was Abel Ramos. You picked Abel Ramos against Vega. Daniel Vega picked Ramos against Omar. Oh, God. Do you remember that fight, Vega? Do you remember what Omar looked like in that fight? His style? It was shocking. It was like, what? Even the announcers were saying, what is he doing? He was trying to look flashy and cool, entering the pocket, going like, when I'm here, he's coming like here, trying to, pair. It was a bizarre performance. And I was like, you know what? Never again on a Figueroa brother. And sure enough, against Fulton, I bet on Brandon, got honey-dicked, and Fulton, we know what Fulton did. So I thought Figueroa hung him up. I don't think I'm going to bet on that fight. There's certain fighters that I kind of, over time you kind of stay away from or you win money on. And to stick to the point, I'm on a streak with Brian Norman Jr. I'm on a nice streak with Naoya Inoue. I know his odds are always terrible. But like I said, I hit a 15-1 on Inoue's last fight for him to get knocked down. And then the fight before that, I hit another knockdown prop betting with him. So there's certain guys. I know that fight's coming up. Who knows? I might cover it. We'll see what happens. But, hey, Johnny, what do you think about David Stevens and Peter Kamakov? Monica, appreciate you on the live stream. I didn't break this fight down, but I just got odds on the Peter Stevens versus Kamakov fight. So I woke up this morning, and my sports book down here kind of gave me, and it's pretty close to even money. I like Manny Robles too. He's a great trainer, by the way. Pretty close to even money. David Stevens versus Kamakov. That fight, that fight goes down on Saturday. Monica, I'll give you your answer tomorrow. I need to look at their past performances. I think so too. I think right now the fight, Stevens is a slight favorite, but I think this is another one of those fights. As we get to fight night, it's probably going to even out. It's going to be a close fight, tough fight. Right now, I don't have an answer for you, but I circled it, and I'll have an answer for you tomorrow. Peter Stevens versus Kamakov. And whoever just said Manny Robles is training Barry Figueroa, yeah, he's a great trainer. It's a good move. There's certain, like, Caleb Plant, not betting on him again. Not betting on Caleb Plant. You're welcome, Monica. Never betting on Caleb Plant again. There's certain fighters where things happen. And you just have to make decisions to where I'm not going to pull the trigger. So I always told you guys that my dad's advice with gambling was, Johnny, bet with your wallet, not with your heart. Another advice he always gave me regarding like team betting, whether it's, I'm a American sports teams. I grew up in Northeast Ohio. So I'm a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, diehard Cleveland Indians fan, or the Guardians, diehard Cleveland Cavs fan. But I never bet on those teams. So that's another one of my rules is like, if I'm a fan of a team, I'm not betting any money on that team. I'm such a fan of those sports teams that I want to watch the game with like a fan's eyes, not a gambler's eyes. And so sometimes when you bet on fighters that you like, and this is probably one of the things why I've been successful gambling on boxing, because I'm not a fan of any boxer, and that's not supposed to sound bad. That's not a bad thing. When like I'm not a fan of it. If somebody's like, who's your favorite boxer? I would say I'm not a fan of any boxer. I'm a fan of the sport. My love for boxing allows me to watch these fights and break down these fights with a neutral eye. So you'll never see me leaning one way or another. I know some channels will only pick this sort of guy or this sort of guy. I will only pick my reasoning on why I see in the fight tape. So, you know, if you guys didn't know that about me, that's something about me. And I've been known to bet against the guy that I like. I told you that. Muscle Brown in the house. Carlos, yeah, I gave you a shout out, Muscles, based on the Knockdown. Been winning on that Knockdown prop bet. And we're thinking about doing it again. But yeah, so I like a guy that, you know, I always bring up the Errol Spence versus Bud Crawford fight. I bet heavy money on Bud, but I was more of an Errol Spence Jr. fan. And I said that in my breakdown. More recently, I'm a fan of George Kambosos. I know his dad, Jim. I love what he's done for boxing. I wanted George to win, but I went heavy on Hitchens to stop him. You know what I'm saying? And I think because of that, you guys could come to the channel and at least I might not always be right, but at least you could expect that sort of reasoning with my choices. Nobody's always right. I like the people still, you know, checking in 46 minutes in. Guys, I'm going to keep this on for another 15. Yeah, I agree. And I'll probably take action. We'll see. We're going to get to fight night. We'll make a decision. Brian Norman money lines. Is there any way you could see him losing? I don't see it. Poppy Brandon, I'm going to answer that question for you because a lot of the focus and chat around Brian Norman Jr. has been us riding the path to victory, right? You know, picking the stoppage, seeing him win, going to Japan, keeping his undefeated record intact. If you watch my breakdown analysis video, I told you Sasaki's path to victory is going to be luring Norman Jr. into a dogfight, forcing Norman Jr. to fight him in the middle and punch with him. Now, Sasaki's aggressive on his front foot. Norman likes fighting on his front foot. Norman has the better boxing skills. He uses the ring better. He's faster. He has more power. But if Sasaki forces that fight onto him, and this is why I said we're going to get to see Brian Norman Jr.'s maturation in the ring, and we're going to get to see his fight IQ in the ring. Because what Sasaki loves to do is to get you in that pocket and do what? Break the body down. His body punching is good, especially in close. He works the body. I could see if there's a path to victory, it's him working the body in the pocket, catches Norman Jr. swinging with him, and then coming up with that hook up top. My problem with Sasaki's path to victory, he doesn't jab enough. He doesn't set up his clinch work. I'll get to you, Blessings, in a second. He doesn't set up his clinch work with a jab. You know what I mean? Like, you watch a good jabber like Hitchens. Hitchens does what you're told to in day one of sparring. Set things up at distance, cut the range with your jab, and then make a decision. So Sasaki doesn't do that. He just comes right in. Sometimes he comes in naked without showing anything. And I think that Norman Jr. is going to pick up on that quickly. And so to answer my long-winded question, Sasaki's path to victory is forcing Norman Jr. into his style of fight. Muscle Brown. Yeah. Sasaki has a puncher's chance. He could punch. He could definitely punch. Does he have one-punch knockout power? I don't know. Has he been stomped before? Yes. Do Japanese fighters have egos in a different way? And this isn't a bad thing? Yes. They fight with a different chip on their shoulder, which is awesome to see. We love it. Like, I haven't really met too many fight fans who don't like watching Japanese fighters. I love watching Japanese boxers. Sometimes I pick them to win. Inoue, Nakatani. Granted, he was also fighting a Japanese fighter. Sometimes I bet against them. Sugar Nunes, Andy Cruz. So you got to just take the good with the bad, and I think that Sasaki's undoing will be his aggression. Exactly. I agree. Cool Longo, I agree. That level of competition. And also, guys, something that we can't measure with fighters is what having a world title around your waist does to you. How important, you must ask, is confidence in the ring? Some would say a confident fighter is the most dangerous guy. Some would even say being confident in the ring supersedes skill set, technique, athleticism. Confidence is huge. We know what being a champion does for a guy's mind. Yeah. So Muscles is talking about the best value on this fight is for the fight not to go the distance. Muscles, what do you feel about plus 1.5 knockdowns? Because I like that prop bet. I brought it up earlier. And then we're also talking about if you want to get funny, you want to get cute or sexy with your picks, 6-1 odds on the fight to end to not go 4.5. Coolo, I already posted. So go to my post section. I just did a cheeky 2-leg. Norman by stoppage, Araneta money line, but the Araneta odds have shifted drastically. I got Araneta as a underdog. He's now the favorite. Kona Walker. I got to answer you, Blessings. Blessings been asking me about Kona Walker this whole time. I'll be uploading Kona Walker versus Liam Taylor. The odds right now are pretty interesting. Kona Walker's $1.43, and Liam Taylor's $3.05. See, this is another one, guys. This is another one. I don't know if I'm going to bet on it. You know, you got like British level fighters fighting. You got British level. I don't know if I'm going to put money on it, guys. That's no knock. I love the Brits. I love watching British boxing, but I don't always bet on all the Brit. I don't always bet on domestic level fighters, especially when you get to the UK, because these guys, they'll fight you behind a bar for free with nobody watching. My point is, when that's at stake and you have money on the line, anything can happen in these fights. So Liam Taylor 28-2, Kona Walker 15-3. Kona Walker's never been stopped. We know Liam Taylor's been stopped once, and he got stopped against David Avenation. And I don't think David Avenation gets the credit he deserves. Even American fight fans will only know Avenation for getting stopped against Boots. You're welcome, Blessings, and getting stopped against Bud. But UK and European fans will know that Avenation could fight. Avenation, the work he put on Joshua Kelly, nobody was expecting that. I wasn't. I thought Josh Kelly was going to dog walk Avenation, and it was trending that way in the first few rounds until you start to see David Avenation weaponizing his cardio and his ring IQ, and then I'm like, damn. Because, you know, we always talk about domestic level fighters and world-class level fighters, but I think there's a space in between. You know what I mean? That space of fighter, that talent level where they might not ever become a full world champion, but they'll beat everybody at the domestic level, and every now and then they'll beat a champion. And David Avenation is up there. He can fight. He's older now. I think he's 30, 36, but he stopped Liam Taylor. And how long ago was that? He stopped Liam Taylor in 2021. So you can't, I don't like putting too much, but it did happen. And since then, he's 5-0 with 3 stoppages. 5-0 with 3 stoppages. But who's he fighting? You know what I mean? He's coming off a 6-rounder. He hasn't fought a 12-rounder since that Avenation loss in 2021. You know what? I feel comfortable. This isn't my prediction, Blessings, but if you pick Kona Walker, I feel comfortable with that pick. I do. Just based off of where he's trending. Kona Walker is coming off he stopped Harry Scarf in the 11th round. He lost to Lewis Crocker, but, that's not a bad loss. Lewis Crocker, there's a lot of hype around Lewis Crocker in terms of where he's ranked at 147, 21-0, 11 knockouts. He's in BoxRec's top 15. He might get a title shot soon. Lewis Crocker's a guy that could box, so that's not a bad loss. Right now, without sitting too much with it, I like Kona Walker in that fight based off of where their careers are trending, what they are at their potential, and, opponents. Sometimes guys just brush up domestic guys, and then when they take that one step up, you really get to see the difference. And this isn't me talking trash, but I told you guys Nathaniel Collins versus Lee McGregor. So many people were coming to me saying that Lee McGregor was going to beat Nathaniel Collins. It was in Scotland. It was the battle of, Glasgow versus, their neighborhood rivalry in Scotland. They had fought each other in the Amis years earlier. But I was leaning based on what I saw in Nathaniel Collins' most recent performances against sort of high-level opponents, and we saw what happened. Appreciate the question. So that's something that when you guys are looking to bet on a fight or especially put money, guys, we work for our money. Every dime we have, we work for. So just to even risk $1 of money that you earned working for on a fight, hopefully you're doing your research and asking those questions. And one of my jobs here doing this is to kind of give you insights that maybe you haven't really thought about before when looking at what guy is going to win or what the parlays are going to do. Because I get into, sometimes on my page, I'll post a win. I posted a win. It was 2-1, right? Somebody's like, oh, 2-1. Anybody could hit 2-1. I'm like, all right, bitch, did you hit 2-1? What if you put 10K on it and won 10K? Like, did you, or are you betting $5? Like, what are you doing? So you're just going to come recklessly on my channel and talk trash about a 2-1 when the guys I know who gamble for a living, they'll never go past the 3-1. Even guys who are making a living off of gambling and sports betting, I know guys who have perimeters where when it gets to 3-1, they're like, I don't know if I'm going to put that 50K on it. It's a bit risky. So my point is having sort of the understanding of where to go heavy, when not to go heavy. There's a bit of instinct to it. There's a bit, obviously, research. Know your stuff, and don't get caught picking on fights based off of just odds. And rant. Guys, we're approaching the 1 hour mark. We got 70 people in here. The live streams are growing. Let's like this video. Also, if you haven't watched my breakdown, my last video, I uploaded the Yafi versus Francisco Rodriguez Jr. fight. It's a fun fight. Watch that breakdown. I told you who I'm leaning on. Also, if you want to rewatch, if you haven't already, I gave you my reasons why Brian Norman Jr. wins. I give you a path to victory. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to go power lift right now. I got a trap bar deadlift session. And then I'm uploading Lorenzo Simpson versus Shahai Tucker. Manny, I'm 24/7, baby. Let's do it. I'm going to do another live stream today. Guys, I appreciate everyone in this chat. All I ask, like the video, comment, stay tuned to the channel. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification button. What that does is you'll get notified. And that's how we can continue to stay in touch. Appreciate everybody. I'll talk to you soon.